Hi everyone, here's the video overview for Thursday, May 7th. We have our third problem of the day in math, the dog collar problem. We'll continue our author study chart in reading workshop. We move on to our third and in most cases final body paragraph today as we continue with our drafting. And then in social studies, the kids have a second day to finish their local level assignment. The answer keys provided, all of this to help us get ready for tomorrow's game show. As we continue with our problem of the day, I'm going to continue posting it in the stream section of our Google Classroom because I think that's going to help a lot of people access it. So I'll be doing that from now on. As I've been mentioning, it's great if the kids can print the template and just make a new one for each day to do the problem of the day, or they can copy the different parts on their own paper. There's no extension today because the last couple of days have been our quote-unquote soft launch, and the questions were kind of short. Now we're getting into more of the type of problem we're going to be seeing from now on, and the one that I give today is going to take a little bit longer. It's a lot of fun, but there will not be an extension. For the first time, we see conditions. We have special rules that tell us what can or can't happen or that provide limits in some way. For today only, I am underlining the conditions so they're easy to find so the kids could write it down in the condition section of the template. This will probably be the last time I share the one from 2002 because it continues to freak me out that it's that old. But I did want to mention that keywords only are fine for important facts and conditions today, and the kids are I continue to encourage them to share any novel strategies either with me via email or office hours. In the dog collar problem, Billy, Shane, Devin, and T-Call each bought a new dog. Then they each bought one collar for their dogs. The collars were blue, silver, dark green, and turquoise. The color of each dog's collar begins with a letter that's different from the first letter of the owner's name. T-Call and Shane won't buy anything dark green for their dogs. Shane's dog doesn't have a turquoise collar. What is the color of each person's dog collar? You'll see, again, the conditions are underlined because they limit who can or can have what. Now, the answer key is next with a couple really interesting solutions. So go ahead and pause here as the kids do their work. And then I filled out the top of the template with the question. I thought the important facts were the boys' names. The fact that they each bought one collar is extremely important, so we definitely want to write that one down. And then the colors of the collar would be the third. Conditions are that the color of the collar begins with a letter that's different from the boy's first name. T-Call and Shane, no dark green. Shane, not turquoise. As I've been saying, keywords are fine. These don't need to be sentences. Whatever strategies the kids are using today, they probably involve some form of logical reasoning. One very popular form of logical reasoning is the process of elimination. So you see that I wrote all the kids' first names and then all four colors underneath each. It could easily be the other way around. We can have each color at the top and the four boys' names underneath each. So what we do is go through one condition at a time. So the first one says that the color of the collar has to be different from the boy's first name. So we can go ahead and cross out blue for Billy, S for silver for Shane, silver for Shane, etc. And then we want to go to the next condition. T-Call and Shane can have dark green, and Shane can have turquoise. So here's dark green crossed out for Devin and T-Call. And finally, Shane, no turquoise. Now, after we reach this step, we're done with the conditions, so we need to see if there are any columns where 3 of the 4 choices have been crossed off, and that is the case with Shane. So we would circle blue for Shane because that's the one his dog gets, and then since there's only one color left, we want to be sure that we cross off blue. Each person gets one color. We cross off blue for Devin and T-Call because they can't have blue. So now we see, are there any boys left with only one choice? And it's T-Call. Silver's the only one left. So we would circle silver, cross off silver everywhere else, and then keep looking, either for Devin or Billy. Is there only one choice left for either of them? And it's Devin. So Devin would get turquoise, and Billy would get dark green. So I indicate that, and then the solution would be 4 short sentences showing which boy gets which collar. And then I always like to wrap up by doing the last part, checking if it's reasonable. You'll see that I checked off one of the important facts, that they each have one collar, and I checked off the conditions, so I know that I'm in good shape here. Another very popular strategy, and kids tend to like this more because there's less writing and it's a little faster, is the make a chart strategy. The names go on top and the colors go on the left. It could easily be the other way around, and the order of names and colors could be alphabetical. It could be in any order. So again, we start by going through the conditions. First one, we know that each boy can't have the color that starts with the first letter of their name. And then this one shows that Devin and Tikal don't have dark green and that Shane doesn't have turquoise. So once again, we look. Are there any rows or columns that have 3 of the 4 filled in? And here there are a couple of them. But I'm going to start with Shane because blue is the only one left for Shane. And if he has it, no one else can have blue. So I'm crossing off the other ones. And then I continue to look for 3 out of 4. And I'm noticing that for dark green, Billy has to have dark green. So I put in yes. Billy can't have anything else, so I put X's in the other ones. You can also put the word no if you want. X's are fine. And then as we continue to look, there's an opening with Tikal and silver, and there's an opening in the turquoise section. So I'm going to put yeses in both, cross off the rest. That's another way of getting to that. Hint, hint, we may be seeing this strategy again. As we move to reading workshop, we continue with our author study project. Yesterday I mentioned a possible weekly schedule if the kids want to do their 3 nonfiction days on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So this would be a day for that. It's totally fine if they're doing it on other days, as long as they're doing, I'm saying the first half this week, at least 3 entries on this chart, 3 next week, that's fine. We've been focusing on this chart of author techniques, the what. It's easy to think that nonfiction authors use certain techniques that are different from the techniques that fiction writers and poets use. And it turns out that they don't live in 2 different worlds. There's actually techniques that fiction writers and poets use that nonfiction writers also use. Here are some of them. And then I also want to share a few examples from Seymour Simon. He uses an example of foreshadowing. He uses rising tension. I'm not going to read each one, so you're welcome to pause the video if you want to see what they are. He also uses comparisons and similes. Again, these are mostly fiction techniques that are used in nonfiction. So the kids could be on the lookout for these to add to their chart. It could expand their repertoire of things that they're looking for. Here are a few more dealing with personification, poetic language, repetition, and themes. We now move to our local level assignment, day 2. So the kids are going to finish that up in Google Classroom. It's due Thursday at 5. And then even though our game show tomorrow is for fun and it's not an assessment, I do recommend some kind of prep or studying. The kids are welcome to have all the docs in front of them when we do the game show, but if they want to do a little preparation, it's going to help them do a little bit better in the game show. Finally today, after I show the answer key, which is going to be in Google Classroom, and then it's also going to be on the next few slides, so we can pause until the kids finish, or you can skip over it until the kids finish. I did want to point out the last one about decision time, how the kids were asked to pick a job that they'd want to do. Any of them would be correct if they're mentioned in the reading, as long as the kids give a good reason why. They explain why they would choose it using information from the reading to support their choice. Finally today, we move on to our third body paragraph. If the kids have 4, then they're going to want to do their third and fourth by the end of tomorrow. The concluding paragraph for Friday tends not to take as long. So if they can find time to do that 4th paragraph, they will be in great shape for next week. Each day I've been using one example from my stray example. We're on our third body paragraph. So this is the 3rd example. And just like the other 2 days, I want to start by mentioning the evidence, setting the scene, and then showing why it's important. So I want to build that example from scratch like I did yesterday. So I'm starting with my topic sentence using a transition phrase. I could say a 3rd example, a final example of how Doris's parents shoot down her attempts to persuade them to keep the dog is when Doris asked her mother if they could keep the dog and the mom said no. Then I know I need to set the scene. I need to give background information. And you can go ahead and pause. I'm not going to read that all. I do want to point out the quotes and the page numbers. Great idea if the kids are continuing to do that. Then the most important part is the blue. I need to explain how the example ties back to the thesis statement. So I go ahead and do that. And this, like I mentioned yesterday, is when I would pretend in class to be finished. But because the kids in our class are so alert, they probably all have their hands up because they know I need my concluding sentence. so I go ahead and put one. One last thing, I want to update everything since we're now done with our 4th body paragraph, or we will be after Thursday. This is how it should look on the doc. Introduction at the top. It's actually the introduction for a different story, but I just want to show what it would look like. That's in all black, and then we would have the 3 body paragraphs, one underneath the other, indented at the top, so that there's no space in between. We're doing it all on one doc, and it is continuous. That is all for today. Thanks.